Hello, I'm delighted to say that today I'll be joined by the incredible Sophie Ibbotson to welcome the return of the iconic Golden Eagle train and our popular Silk Road collection. Today, Sophie will be offering unique insights into the rise of Uzbekistan and the wider Silk Road region as one of travellers' most sought-after destinations. Sophie is an author, activist, and leading voice on the Silk Road region, and more specifically, Uzbekistan. She's a consultant to the World Bank, Uzbekistan's ambassador for tourism, and the chairman of the Royal Society for Asian Affairs. So I'll begin our conversation by asking Sophie, what is it that sparked your interest in Central Asia?
So funnily enough, my first love was with South Asia, not with Central Asia. I studied Indian languages at university. My family history, because of the British Empire, was in South Asia. I travelled there, I worked there, I studied there, and I thought my life was going to be in South Asia. But in 2008, with some friends, I decided to drive back from India to the UK, and we got snowed in Kyrgyzstan. And that started a love affair with Central Asia, a place that I, until that point, knew very little about. But what I discovered is that there was a huge warmth of hospitality and a great richness of history and culture, which interconnected not only with the things that I loved in India, but also with passions for China, with Russia, with Iran, and also with Europe as well.
Now, it's certainly an unusual backstory, but how did you make the transition then from a person with just a personal interest to a professional investment?
I started working in Central Asia. Actually, there were very few foreigners working there. There were a small number of people attached either to the military or to the embassies. But in terms of business or consultancy roles, there were very, very few expats. So there were a lot of opportunities there. I was very fortunate that I got offered a job working for the Ministry of Economy, both on investment promotion for Kyrgyzstan, but also on their tourism development, which was in a very early stage. I also met with people from Brat Guides, the UK travel publisher, who asked me to update their Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan guidebooks, and later commissioned me to write their Uzbekistan and Tajikistan guides. And that was a fantastic launch pad really for the region, because it gave me a reason to explore every part of these countries, including the very remote regions that were off the beaten track. Over the intervening years, I've been able not only to work more in the travel publishing space, but also consultancy for the different governments. So I work, as you mentioned, as Uzbekistan's tourism ambassador, which is a role with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. In Tajikistan, I have a similar sort of job funded by the World Bank, supporting the Committee for Tourism Development. And then I've worked with other organisations in the region, both donor organisations, but also companies. And in January last year, I was appointed as the first female chairman of the Royal Society for Asian Affairs, and that is an organisation which is founded in 1901, originally as the Central Asia Society, to bring together expertise in London, originally with the purpose of defending British imperial interests in Asia, but latterly bringing together people from policy making, from business, from academia, and from those with a general interest in Asia to discuss Central Asia and Asia as a whole, particularly with the current affairs angle.
Now, Uzbekistan and Central Asia is very much becoming one of the hottest destinations for travel bucket lists. Why do you think there's been this seemingly sudden rise in interest?
Very much being driven by Uzbekistan. And the reason is that they had a new president, Mirziyoyev, come to power in 2016. And he said that his two priorities for his presidency were foreign investment and tourism development. So because there was the commitment from the top and at all parts of government working with the private sector, we've seen a very rapid opening up of the country and a very rapid development of the tourism sector. Prior to 2016, Uzbekistan was actually quite closed for investment and for tourism, but that's all changed. And because Uzbekistan is the most populous country in the region and has got the most important tourist sites, the other countries in the region have benefited from that as well, because people get to know a little bit about Uzbekistan. Perhaps they'll fly direct to Uzbekistan, and then they can travel around the wider region as well.
And why would you say that this region is a must-see destination?
So particularly the UNESCO World Heritage Sites of Samarkand, Bukhara and Khiva. And these are names a lot of people have grown up with, either hearing about the sort of the great game literature and the early 20th century explorers, or simply having seen pictures. Often people say to me they opened National Geographic as a child and there was an extraordinary photograph of a building like the Registan. This complex in Samarkand is, as I see it, to Uzbekistan as the Taj Mahal is to India. It's an absolutely magnificent piece of bejeweled architecture that really symbolizes the entirety of the Silk Road. There are other reasons why now is a very good time and why it's hit the bucket lists or hit the travel list for this year. Some of them are very practical things. So, for example, Uzbekistan is visa-free now for EU nationals and for UK passport holders as well. And there are direct flights from the UK, 2 at the moment, increasing to 3 in the summertime. So it's much, much easier to get there than it was historically. Also, if we think about the places along the Silk Road that people want to see, the other place, the only place I would say which really rivals Uzbekistan in terms of its architectural and historic monuments is Iran. And for most people at the moment, Iran is closed. And so if you want to see those aspects of the Silk Road, Uzbekistan has to be your #1 choice.
Now, aside from the historical legacy, are there any other aspects in this region that you would say are a must-see destination?
I would talk about actually is the nature, and people forget about this when they're fixated on the beauty of the cities. So Uzbekistan does have the city UNESCO World Heritage Sites I mentioned earlier, but it also has a natural World Heritage Site, which is the Western Tian Shan Mountains. And if you think about the Himalayas and the Pamirs, and you keep going west through those mountain ranges, you get to the Tian Shan range. So those mountains are absolutely spectacular. And then they contrast with the deserts of the Kizilkum and the Karakum and the Aralkum. And of course, the Amu Darya, which was known in antiquity as the Oxus, the great river of Central Asia. So there's those different ecosystems, natural environments, not only giving very impressive scenery, but also different ecosystems for wildlife and opportunities for different activities as well. So Uzbekistan is just starting to develop its nature-based tourism, adventure tourism. So you can, for example, go and spend a night in a yurt with a nomadic family in the desert. You can go hiking, you can go picnicking by the lakes, you can go skiing even, which is something that surprises people, that actually Uzbekistan has got a rapidly growing winter sports industry. Then thinking things that are connected both with the rural and the urban areas, fantastic fresh produce, wonderful fruits and vegetables which are exported from Uzbekistan all over the former Soviet Union and increasingly to Europe as well. Magnificent handicrafts. Not only the skills that we use to build those magnificent monuments in the first place, so the papier-mâché and the tiles and the giltwork, woodwork, but also textiles. So you can see my coat that I have on today is a traditional Uzbek chapan, which is a silk coat made from ikat, but wonderful embroidery in gold and in silk threads, velvets, handmade, and carpets as well. So the shopping is absolutely fantastic.
Now, obviously, the first point of call, if people want to learn more about travel to Central Asia, would be to visit our website at goldeneagleluxurytrains.com and our YouTube channel, where they can view our fantastic selection of expert lectures, view our itineraries, and learn more about our Silk Road collection of voyages. However, after that, Sophie, is there anything you recommend for people to research to expand their awareness and intrigue?
Just to whet your appetite. And that's Joanna Lumley's programme about the Silk Road, because one of the episodes was focused on Uzbekistan. And that gives you a real sense of place of the majestic cities and architecture that you're going to see, but also a realization that it's not that alien, it's not that far away. There is a certain familiarity. And quite frankly, if Joanna Lumley can do it, then all of us can too. In terms of further reading about Uzbekistan and the region, my Brat Guide book is certainly, I would hope, very useful to you, and that's the best-selling guidebook to Uzbekistan in English. I would also recommend Caroline Eden's book, Red Sands, and that is a journey across Central Asia through food and through reportage. So I think food is always a very good way to learn about a culture, not only the ingredients, but the recipes and the people who make it. And Caroline Eden writes beautifully. So that would be a very, very good book. It's called Red Sands.
Thank you very much for those recommendations, Sophie. Now, many of those books that you've referenced will be included in our reading lists, which is something that we include as part of the package for all our Golden Eagle and Danube Express passengers, just to give them a heads up of resources to consider prior to their voyages with us. Well, firstly, I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you, Sophie, for virtually sitting down with me today. And I'm greatly looking forward to our next discussion, which will be part of our in-depth lecture series as featured on our YouTube channel. Now, if anybody has any questions for Sophie or the team at Golden Eagle Luxury Trains, please do email us at mail@getrains.com. If you want to learn more about our Silk Road collection and our iconic Golden Eagle train, please visit our website at goldeneagleluxurytrains.com. And there you will find our itineraries, departure dates, pricing, and digital brochures for download. Alternatively, if you email mail@getrains.com, you can request physical copies of our beautiful brochures, which will be dispatched in the mail free of charge. I think there's nothing left to say, but thank you, Sophie, for your time and insight, and I greatly look forward to your in-depth lecture. Thank you.